Hello, Drunkduckers. I'm as an ocean, and with me is Tarts and Baines. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. This is the Quackcast, the Drunkduck Quackcast, number 689. I'm as an ocean. Yeah, I already said that. And we're going to talk about overriding passions that inspired you from pop culture. So, we're not going to talk about a whole bunch of ones, although Tarts is. We're going to talk about mainly just sort of, we're going to slim it down. Okay, so before we do that, theme song. Hello everyone, yes, this is us after the theme music, and we're going to talk about our overriding passion, something that inspired us to create, and it sort of has a place in the DNA of our creation ever since. And of course we could talk about like a million billion things, we all have like many inspirations, but we're sort of narrowing it right down for this particular Quackcast. So we'll talk about that after we talk about the featured comic and the featured music. So the featured comic this week was Fairwood, and I featured this, so I'm going to tell you about it now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Fairwood. In a world of dungeons, bars, ale, medieval fantasy, leather, swords, castles, magic, and sexy red devil women lives Lida, a bouncy, buxom, scar-covered halfling with a chaotic, earthy personality. She's a mercenary, and we're going to follow her on a job with the Scarlet Devil Lady, Euphoria, as they use their wiles and their muscles to accomplish a rather dodgy but covert objective. The art is lush, digital, and full colour. The story is a comedic fantasy. There's some racy language here and a touch of harmless nudity. So beware. This is a joyous, fun, transgressive little comic featuring these very, very fun people. I love Lida's personality. As I mentioned, it's earthy, but it's really kind of out there, ebullient and offensive, which is quite fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoy Fairwood, rated M for mature, comic by Fancy Fatale. Read it. That was the comic Fairwood. So yes, hope you go and read that and enjoy it and just absorb the beauty of Fairwood, which is fantastic artwork. Okay, so next up we have the theme tune that Gun Wallace has given us. He's given us the theme to a comic called Pipeline Lizards. So this is Oriental Old West rock. This capers up to you in an enthusiastic, confusing crab walk of anachronism, bathing you in exciting rock and plucky tones of what sounds like a shamisen played like a banjo, or shamisen, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, played like a banjo. So take it away, Gun Wallace, with your theme to Pipeline Lizards.
is our featured music, Pipeline Lizards, which is a really cool comic. And it's a comic by a fellow called Pipeline Lizards. Well, I shouldn't say a fellow, a person called Pipeline Lizards, and it's rated E for everyone. So yeah, check that out and see how closely that matches Gumwallis's magical little theme. All right. Overriding passions. What are your passions? What drives you? What inspires you? What gives you the flame of inspiration in your life? Tell me all. Well, should I go first? Should I?
Sure.
All right. So it's the thing that inspires me, of course, is three things. It's Dark Crystal, the thing of John, and the no, I'm lying. That I'm bullshitting. Sorry, Tance. It's the Princess Bride. No.
I'm not saying
It's being an evil bastard. No. Okay, so what a big thing that inspired me that I can pick out as like a massive inspiration for me was the movie Tank Girl, which was done in the mid-90s, early mid-90s sometime. And back then I was an art student. I was creating, drawing, painting, and I was sort of hanging out with the art student crowd. So I was very much into the culture of the time, the culture and the music. And the movie Tank Girl, while it was not very much like the comic, it was its own thing, but it really was like a distillation of 1990s alt culture in the form of that movie. So it wasn't a very good version of the comic, but it was a very good distillation of 90s alternative culture. See, alternative culture started in the 1990s. I mean, we've always had alternative culture. We've always had like artists and bohemian people and stuff like that. But back in the 90s, this thing was created specifically called alt culture. And we had alt girls and alt this and alt that. And that's wasn't like in the 80s had their own thing. And the 70s had but the 90s had specifically alt culture. And Tank Girl, was very much, the movie was very much this distilled perfectly in every aspect. The soundtrack by Courtney Love, she'd gotten all these musicians together specifically to have their music, she curated the whole thing, and it was just, the music was just magical to me. I've still got the soundtrack, still listen to it to this day. The look, the fashion, it was 90s club fashions. That was a big thing. That was the only really big inspiration that the comic transitioned very, very closely through into the movie, was 90s club fashion. And the artists, can't remember the specific artists at the moment, but it's the guy who is behind the Gorillaz with Damon Albarn, the band. So him and his co-creator went to clubs and stuff like that in the late 80s, early 90s, and the look of their comic and their comic characters was very much massively inspired by that, and all their characters had that sort of look. And this very much transitioned to the movie, and the fashions and the clothing of the characters was just beautifully displayed in this movie. Just massively inspiring. The hairstyles as well, just the body paint, the imagery, the tattoos, piercings, all that kind of stuff. The 2000s have sort of seen this kind of new renaissance of tattoos and piercings, but the first renaissance of that massively in pop culture started in the 90s. That's where that really came from. in alt culture. Now people like to pretend they're part of alt culture, but it's not really. It's a more common thing. Like so many people have that look, piercings all over the place and tattoos is not an unusual thing. And back in the 1990s, that was very specific to alt culture. It wasn't as mainstream as it is now. So that was another big thing in the movie. And so, and Laurie Petty's acting, my God, this was her first massive starring role in a film as well. And she knocked it out of the park. She'd been in, films that she is in, League of Their Own and Point Break, things like that.
Oh, is she,
really stand out.
She's the sister in League of Their Own?
Exactly.
Tina Davis's sister? Right, okay.
But she doesn't really stand out.
I've only seen Tank Girl once, and it was a very long time ago, and it didn't click with me. But over the years, every time you've mentioned it, I keep telling myself I got to look at it again.
You really do. I've seen it so many times. She's in Orange is the New Black. She was a big part of that, and various things over the years. But yeah, Tank Girl was her biggest role ever because she was the star in that, and she just created this character as her own thing. Like it's just so her, and she sort of redid the character a few times. Like she did her own sitcom called Lush Life, and she was playing like an out-of-work art student or something like that, and she very much basically just did her Tank Girl character for that character, so much so that she even dressed like Tank Girl once in the Halloween episode. I think that was the first episode, so yeah. And she reprised the character again in Star Trek, I think Star Trek Voyager, although I'm not sure, it could be Next Generation, but I think Voyager, so she reprised it again as not exactly, but in her way of acting and her way of like creating this character. So yeah, Laurie Petty was incredible in Tank Girl, and that massively inspired me. So when I watched this, I started just drawing, and I got 3 huge A1 sheets and just drew this gigantic picture of this huge tank. And then drew these women sort of climbing all over it, dressed as she was dressed, like in holy fishnet stockings and denim shorts and like cut-off T-shirts, and with all her crazy hair, different sort of variations of all those outfits that she wore. All these just women climbing all over this tank based on the imagery that I'd seen in the film. And look, see, the story of the film is basic. It's very basic. It's not a very intelligent story, as stories go. Like, this would have been something someone thought of in, like, half an hour. But what's good about the film isn't, like, the structure of the whole plot. It's the scenes. So it's, as taken from just the scenes, it's fantastic. But it's taken from the whole story. You can just, like, forget it. But yeah, the scenery is excellent, and the characters and the costumes and the clothing is just absolutely magical. And it's a very 90s alternative, and yeah, it massively inspired me. So, and it's inspired me ever since, especially back in the 90s. Like, this is like the early inspiration of where Pinky TA came from. So after that film, I was obsessed with these characters, and I was sort of forming basic versions over the years, and they got more detailed, and then in the late 90s, I came up with my Pinky TA character. And she had a lot of other formative inspirations as well, but a lot of those would have been because I had seen Tank Girl, so they would have driven me to those other inspirations, like Eon Flux and Ghost in the Shell, things like that. But, and yeah, 90s alt girl culture. Like, I'd also become interested in the tattoos and piercings, but not of that it was popular in like alt culture. I'd gone and looked at the Zulu and different African tribal stuff. So that's where that kind of inspiration happened. So yeah, I was driven back to the sources of where these things came from. And that's why Pinky has these great big plates in her ears. They're not based on the fact that, Western people do that. That was directly based on African stuff. So yeah, massively inspirational to me, and keeps on inspiring me today. Oh yeah, the clothing and stuff like that. I'd worn, the fancy army boots and, fancy bits of gear. So the 1990s, especially the late 1990s, there was a fashion for army influenced stuff, and people would be wearing camo trousers and big army boots and high-soled boots. People had these massive rubber boots and stuff like that. That was very much a late 90s thing, so I've still got mine. And yeah, just so many different aspects of this stuff was... Yes, it's still inspirational to me today. So definitely Tank Girl the movie. That's a big thing for me. So now hopefully I've filled up enough time in the Quackcast that you guys can sort of think about your inspirations.
Oh, I thought we were doing ours next week and the week after.
Yeah, this whole series is just Ozone monologuing about his thing.
No, I love it, man. And you've brought it up before, and I know it's a huge inspiration for Pinky Tail. It's so cool.
Yeah, I've got to force you guys all to watch it again with me.
I want to see it. Have you seen it, Tess?
I have, way back when. Like, there has to be at least 20 years since I saw it or something like that.
My God, we're old, aren't we?
Yeah.
I have a vivid memory of her sort of quirky way of walking, and also maybe the camera work. And in one scene where she goes right up to the camera, maybe it's a camera in story or something, but she looks like she puts her nose right up to the camera, and she's got this look on her face. That's the vivid memory I have of the Tank Girl movie.
Oh yeah, there's a few scenes like that, definitely, especially early on in the film when she's picking her look out for the her costume. She goes into this she's got to go undercover into this weird brothel stripper place. I don't even know what it is, and people are encouraged to dress a certain way, and there's this video that she's watching where the person's saying, and then you remove all body hair and do this, and she's just going, screw you, I'm doing whatever she wants, and she's just pulling clothing out of the wardrobe and trying whatever she wants on and looking amazingly cool. And yeah, I think she bends close to the camera and does her lipstick or something like that in that scene.
That must be what it is, yeah.
So many good
moments.
moments.
Visually striking. Yeah, I just always remember that moment. And I know Malcolm McDowell's in it, but that moment with her nose to the camera is the only thing I remember.
What's a good moment? Yeah, Malcolm McDowell's in it. Toni Collette, I think that was one of her first major roles in an American movie.
She's in everything.
Yeah, so she's this Australian actor who'd done almost nothing, and her acting in that film is terrible. It really is.
Wow.
You watch that and you think, oh my, that's embarrassing.
Well, she definitely figured things out going forward.
Yeah, became a massive person, but that was her beginning. Ice-T is in it.
Oh, cool.
As
this would have been after Boys in the Hood. Wait, I'm thinking of Ice Cube. Never mind.
Ice cream, maybe.
I was thinking about that too, because it's getting close to lunchtime.
Yeah, Ice-T plays a vicious. No, I mean he's one of the big kangaroo men. He's got masses of makeup on his face. Oh yeah, he is a vicious kangaroo guy. Yeah, he's back in his. This was before what was he in Law and Order or something like that.
Yeah, he's now an actor, largely, right? He's been sort of an actor on that show for years now.
This was him back when he was still a real rapper, and still had that air of menace about him, and he was playing that off in the character. He was basically being himself as a vicious Kangaroo Man.
Wild.
So
That
it was
90s alternative fashion, kind of quasi-punk, especially
Yes.
female characters with the mecha, with the war thing. Very Pinky TA. I love it. It's like I can see how that whole vibe.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like the giant. Yeah, so Tank Girl. She has a tank, and she
Yeah.
customizes it to her own fashion. So it's not like the tank that rolls off the production line. It's sleek and properly painted up. She puts a beach umbrella on it and guns sticking out everywhere and clown heads and whatever, like fancy graffiti all over it, and it looks so cool. There's nothing cool. The coolest tank before that was was Kelly's Heroes, and this guy called Oddball, played by a famous actor. Can't remember his name, but very very famous guy. And yeah, he had a cool tank, but Tank Girl's tank blows his out of the water. So yeah, so many things I can say about this film. I just freaking love it. We'll always love it.
The other 90s alternative, I mean, and you mentioned the relationship to anime and stuff like that. Definitely there.
Oh yeah,
like Ghost World, like more sort of those hipster but more down to earth, quirky 90s.
Ghost World. So Ghost World was the film with very badly acting Scarlett Johansson.
And Thora Birch and Steve Buscemi's in it. It was also based on like an underground comic.
Yeah,
so it has some kind of a relationship, but it's obviously got a lot of differences from Tank Girl.
Yeah, this was that 90s or was that early 2000s?
Oh, I'm not sure. I want to say it was mid or late 90s, but I'm not positive. Also long ago now.
It's not bad. It's a very dreamlike film, so it doesn't have the frenetic, like punk dangerousness of Tank Girl. It's more
it's more the punk emo punk thing, maybe, or something.
Emo, yeah. And it's more dreamlike and more thoughtful than Tank Girl, and a lot cleverer too.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a much cleverer, more intelligent film.
Finding your place in the world.
But yes, Toni Collette and Scarlett Johansson are both terrible actors in both those films.
I don't remember her being terrible, but that's another one I got to see again.
Oh yeah, once you watch, you'll think, "What? This is Scarlett Johansson that we know today? Oh my god! Oh, Thora Birch is a far better person. Why isn't she the standout?" But yeah. So yeah, I suppose there were other like 1990s things that did that alt culture kind of thing. I can't really remember any more off the top of my head, but there were a lot of things at that time. The music from 9 Inch Nails, that was very much in that same kind of thing, although they don't appear on the soundtrack. Marilyn Manson, Veruca Salt, who do appear on the soundtrack. Oh, Veruca Salt, I love them. The guy from Stone Temple Pilots, although he's not with his band, he's just by himself. It's a magnificent thing. It's funny that Courtney Love did the soundtrack, though she doesn't appear on it. She might appear on the extra one, I'm not sure. But yeah, I love it. Damn, I'm blanking on other 90s alt culture. Sorry, Bands, what were you going to say?
Nothing. I was just going to say maybe Courtney Love sort of brought the musicians together, like she kind of was a producer or executive producer or something, and she brought them all in, but maybe didn't record a song. I don't know, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe she did. No, I'm thinking of something. It's a fantastic soundtrack. Yeah, so Tank Girl is my big overriding. Well, it's DNA. It's in the DNA. It influenced things to be formed, and then other things coalesced to it after that. So yeah, what about you, Baines and Tance? What are your big DNA inspirations?
You want me to go tense, or do you want to go?
Please go.
Well, I guess I'm going to go with. I don't know. I can't think of something that is the DNA is there in all my stuff the way Tank Girl is in Pinky TA and your whole sensibility. I might have something, but it's not coming to mind. So I'm going to go with X-Men comics.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not the cartoon, not the movies, really. Although the movies capture some of the movies capture some of what spoke to me in X-Men comics.
The actual comics.
Sorry?
The actual comics. So we're talking like the original ones, all the way back in the 60s?
Yeah, the Marvel comic books. I read them in it was like the 80s comics. But then I also got a lot of older stuff. The original run from the 60s. I love that original team. And written by Stan Lee, drawn by Jack Kirby. A lot more comedic, a lot sillier. I love that stuff, but really it would be the Chris Claremont written stuff, mostly from the 80s. Although I love the 70s stuff. I saw reprints of that as well with Chris Claremont and drawn by John Byrne, among others.
Okay.
Kind of the like down to earthness of the characters and kind of the funny, cool way they would talk to each other, mixed with these like big epic stories, kind of thing. Like it seemed like two different. I don't know if I'm right to say this, but in a way, it seemed like two different series in one. In a way, you have these, characters lounging around the pool and having barbecues and going out to bars and stuff like that, and some bar fight breaks out, and the interpersonal conflicts, the thing of being outsiders but trying to help.
Okay.
Mixed with these bigger epic stories, like I said, things would get truly cosmic, and those might not have been my favorite stories, but also there was a lot of horror in those years of comics, stuff that I don't think was really redone in the cartoon. I didn't really watch the cartoon that much, but it took a lot from the comics, but not the stuff that I read, really. Like a lot of the stuff I read has never been explored in the movies. And,
okay.
I don't think in the cartoons either. There's a lot of like horror stuff and sort of dark fantasy and like the dark prophecy and the goblin queen and the world being transformed into some weird alternative fantasy thing, and these X-Men sort of have to find a way to solve it. And like so much of the horror and dark fantasy stuff, even though I don't do comics like that sensibility of kind of regular people getting in over their heads with bigger things than they can handle. I like that kind of thing. Probably mixed with like slacker 90s slacker comedies, I guess.
Yeah.
Easier to draw.
The natural thing would be Clerks. Or...
Yeah, like that kind of thing, sort of exemplified by Clerks. And somebody, I think, who was it, reviewing my comic on the deck one time, said it was like Clerks and those movies had a baby with like the Muppets.
Well, yeah, like you're talking about.
I don't get dirty. I don't swear and get profane like hardly at all. So it's not really like Clerks.
But the thing you're talking about, like ordinary people going about, with real life kind of activities, contrasted with these amazing things that are happening to them, and people sort of getting in over their heads. It's very much typical Strange. So
yeah. That's the main thing I'm thinking of. Does it apply to Kaiju Valentine? Maybe a little bit. Maybe kind of. It's fantastical, but it's
Yeah.
also
I mean,
but
Kaiju
definitely.
Valentine. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Oh, Kaiju Valentine is that. Like, people doing just ordinary real life stuff, but being amazingly fantastical. So it's pure X-Men.
Yeah, so it's like Gulliver's Travels, but with like, the behavior and the interests are very kind of very normal in a way, or very down to earth at least. Very small, if you will.
So Gulliver's Travels, I mean, in that, this guy is an alien, basically. He's,
Right.
he's an outsider. He's it's not only the size difference, but there's a culture difference as well.
Right.
But you don't have that in Kaiju Valentine.
Not really. No, not at all.
There's aspects of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's aspects of it because the giants have these different names for their dances and their activities, but mainly they just take him as, oh yeah, this is her boyfriend. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People accept it. I mean, it's unusual, I think, but they kind of accept it like in a way that you don't imagine this would be accepted or understood at all if it really happened.
And that reminds me of X-Men. So, like, you've got this ridiculous character called Beast, who's all furry and just blue, but he's treated as a normal guy by the rest of the X-Men,
Yeah, he's
So
walking down the
weird.
street with his buddy, talking and picking up, like, meeting an ex-girlfriend for a date, but it's the Beast, and he's this furry blue guy. So definitely that Marvel Comics thing, and really exemplified in the X-Men, like that sort of contrast. I love that kind of thing. Even though my characters are human, there's kind of odd things that happen to them in typical Strange.
Yeah, well, and Kaiju Valentine.
And Kaiju Valentine. And I was doing a
Exactly.
comic more action-oriented, Chatterbox. I haven't really updated it in a couple of years, but it definitely had even more of that kind of thing going on. At least it was going to. It was moving that way. Before I got lazy.
I like the little song there. Before I got lazy.
But that's what I love, that kind of stuff in the X-Men. And going forward, if I have the ambition, if I can get it together, more of the fantastical, the dark fantasy, mixed with the sort of regular interests and concerns, the human concerns of people. Yeah, I definitely want to do more than that. If I ever get there is another question, but yeah, that is a wonderful thing in the X-Men to me.
Well, that's a great inspiration. Yeah, good old X-Men. Well, Stanley's writing. You've got the good thing to.
Yeah, I mean,
work
really,
up to
this
there.
dark fantasy stuff is Chris Claremont years, and
Okay.
everything. But yeah, like the way Stan Lee wrote the original team, so funny to me. It made me laugh so much. And I love the Beast. The Beast was a human being back in those years of the comic. But the idea of having a history, like these used to be the X-Men, and now these are the X-Men, and you sort of, like, we had a backstory. I did a very simplified, super simplified version of that in typical Strange. Like, there's kind of a small backstory. I like that idea of, like, oh, it used to be this, and now it's this. Yeah, I haven't gone deeply into that, but I love having a history and people with old grudges and old regrets and stuff like that. They kind of played in a somewhat comedic way.
Oh yeah, well, say in X-Men, there's that thing between Sabretooth and Wolverine. That's a big grudge
awesome.
there, and other characters have their similar things.
Yeah.
So, which was your favorite X-Men then?
It's a tough one. That's a very tough one because I love the Beast, and of course I love Wolverine. Wolverine's an awesome character.
Oh yeah,
I really like Cyclops, and I really like I really like Rogue.
Oh yeah, Rogue. She's cool with the white hair and the brown hair, the trailer trash look.
Yeah, and
She's
she
so
had a
cool.
history as she came in as a villain. It was before I was really reading, and she had these power absorbing abilities, identity and power absorbing. And she accidentally absorbed Captain Marvel permanently, leaving Captain Marvel a shell and comatose, I think, is the backstory. Or dead, maybe. And then Rogue had her powers, so she can fly and she has super strength, and plus the power absorbing. That Southern Belle personality, I think she's pretty beloved in the cartoon. Like I said, I haven't really seen a cartoon. But yeah, Beast, I really like Beast a lot. Awesome. Both versions, the blue fuzzy guy and the original guy, who's just an acrobat.
Well, he's very intelligent, and
Yeah, and
but
super
also
intelligent. Yeah, that's really
super
a
strong.
fun contrast. Yeah. But Wolverine is awesome, and Cyclops is this kind of melancholy character, loner guy and the leader of the X-Men, the first X-Man. Yeah. So
And Canadian.
Wolverine is Canadian.
I thought Cyclops was Canadian.
Don't think so.
Wow.
No.
I've got this thing in my head that he is, but yeah, you're probably right. I will bow to you because you're the one that's actually read it. I know it.
From what I've read online, they like some comic writers have tried to retcon Wolverine's Canadianness because he's so popular, so they want him to be American.
Oh,
No,
what?
Let's keep it real.
Canadian. He's
Yeah.
Canadian.
He's Canadian. That's it.
Well, he should be played by a Canadian actor too.
I disagree with that, but that's another Quackcast.
Who's the actor? It's that Australian guy.
Yahoo Serious.
Yeah. Cyclops apparently, like Google says that he's from Alaska. So there you go.
Oh, close enough. There we
I
are.
didn't know that. Interesting.
Close enough.
He had a backstory as well, like his powers. People who watch the movies, of course, know that he has the laser eyes, and he has to wear a visor. And when he's in civilian identity, he wears these glasses that stop the beams from coming from his eyes. And he should have been able to turn them off and on at will without wearing the glasses, but he was injured as a child, jumping from a plane, parachuting from a plane with his brother, or something like that. And he had some kind of physical damage, so he was not able to control them. So I love that kind of stuff.
Wow. Okay. So this history. Yeah. I mean, like it's like the whole thing with Wolverine, in that he has these metal claws that come out of him, but he didn't originally have that. They were bone, and he was experimented on, and
he became such an amazing, interesting character. Yeah, like you find out, his actual power is the healing ability. The metal claws and the metal skeleton was done to him. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, which adds an extra aspect to his powers and his like presence, which is incredible.
Just like Rogue had her one power, then she had these other ones added. Beast was this acrobatic mutant who became altered and became this blue creature. So I guess all my favorites have a little extra wrinkle to them.
Oh yeah, there's the Archangel character that becomes this evil guy with the metal wings and stuff because he gets changed.
Yeah, he got changed. That came later.
Yeah, there's the Dark Phoenix character as well.
Yeah, she went through various permutations.
Massively changed. So Hugh Jackman is the actor. Damn it, Hugh Jackman.
Right.
Who is notably really tall and big. As Wolverine is not big, he's very small.
Wolverine is supposed to be 5'3" in the comics.
Yeah.
I think different artists will play with that. They draw him differently. I never had a problem with Hugh Jackman, who's like something like 6'4" or 6'5". It's a wild difference, but to me, he's so good. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and he doesn't really give the impression of being like super tall among all the others, so that doesn't.
That's true. Yeah, he doesn't tower above everyone else. It doesn't seem.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so it was.
Yeah, they didn't exemplify it. Hugh Jackman, who is apparently an alma mater of the university I went to. So he went to the
Oh,
same
really?
university as I did, which is really
Nice.
cool. So yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm basically Hugh Jackman.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Because yeah, Hugh Jackman, as not many people know, his breakout thing was basically musical theatre. And
Mm-hmm.
the university I went to, they had the big musical theatre thing, and yeah, that's where he came out of. Not me. I was doing art, painting, so completely different, but related.
Nice.
So, yeah, Baines, that's pretty cool with the whole X-Men stuff. My
I love
God.
it. There's so much in X-Men that doesn't appear in my comics, I'm sure, but just the way I think about things, I guess, a lot of it comes from a lot of things.
Yeah. So I had a big formative influence on you.
Yes, for sure.
Reading these comics, buying these comics, sort of getting you basically like being part of your whole interest in comics. Would it be part of that kind of aspect as well?
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because I'm not a big comic guy myself. I've never been, but yeah. Oh, well, got to get over to Tance now. Tance,
Oh my God, man.
are you ready for the
so
block?
Yeah.
The thing is, and it's I guess a bit unfortunate that I mean I can't talk about some really powerful inspirations beyond those that I talked about in the video cast. But they are all very prominent in Greek culture and literature and movies, and I don't think they will make sense to anyone. But anyway, here goes. Most of my like like the I have some very impactful books because back in the day, although I did watch a lot of cartoons and stuff, the stuff that really cut through to my heart and to my soul were books. I used to read something like a couple of books a week, and uh, yeah, I was a loner. Just in case you were wondering. But beyond that, there were some books that were classified as children's books, which were not really children's books. Um, and they were all very political, very serious books that all involved young characters shoved into this world of really messed up adults that should be shielding the young characters, but instead the young characters had to make do with a shitty life. So basically that, and two of the books that really stayed with me and remain with me today are by an author that has been translated in many languages. So if you want to look for her, do and pick up her books. She is called Alkizay, and one of the books is near the train tracks or the railroad tracks, something like that, because now I'm translating from the Greek title. And the other one is the lion in the glass, the lion in the glass, I guess, or in the showcase, the lion in the showcase, the lion in the glass window, something like that would be the title. And it is both are stories told from the point of view of young girls. And one is set in the eve of the Russian Revolution, and the other one is set in basically the midst of the junta of 1960 in Greece. So you can imagine that. And it is all about how kids experience really dangerous, life-threatening regimes. And they come from families that are mostly loving and mostly wanting to protect them, but they can't. And you reading it as a kid, I was reading and it felt like this dark cloud closing in and death closing in, and people suddenly dying that you didn't expect in a children's book. Like I have this image burned in my head, in my mind, of this one girl had this really beloved tutor that helped her get into this prestigious school, blah blah blah, and this teacher was a communist, but you do not understand that he is a communist. You understand that he has new ideas that the girl likes, and and she sees him in this demonstration that she doesn't understand what it is about, and then he is gunned down because he's super tall. He's like almost 2 meters tall, which is, I don't know, 6 foot something, I don't know, something like that. So super tall guy. And the turn of phrase is that he stood out among the crowd like a bell tower, and they went for that bell tower, and that bell tower fell. And that is the phrase.
Ah.
And it haunts me to this day. So, very, and this girl then starts being slowly politicized and understanding what is going on, and not wanting to understand what is going on, that sort of thing. So, politics becoming part of your everyday life, even though you don't want that to happen in your everyday life. That is that has been very formative for me. And because my family is such that this has happened to us as a family in real life, so that hit closer to home, I guess. And so that those books would be my main inspiration for like works like Without Moonlight and Art of Veiling. And then the existential stuff and the fantasy stuff comes from the other things that I talked about in the video cast. So there you have it. That is my big inspiration, and this existential struggle of man with death, and not just death like physical death, but what it means to die as a human being. Are you like you still live on, but you are dead inside? How does that work? Uh, that sort of thing. So that's my main inspiration. I don't know if you. I mean, I cannot say that it excites me, but I can say that that is the only thing that I want to explore. Even in Verdant, that's what I'm going to explore. In Weird, that's what I'm exploring, really. I mean, except for the very clear intent of wanting to map history as it happened. The characters that are my characters, they are not historical figures, are exploring this, like what makes you a human and what makes you a beast, like a living dead, which is, and going back to, because I did mention that the apocalypse is a big inspiration for me. There is this, that is not in the apocalypse, but there is this line that Jesus says in the New Testament. Don't ask me for a reference because I never remember references. I refuse, but you can find it. That says when he asks for the apostles to follow him, and they say, please wait because we have this funeral going on, and he says, leave the dead to bury their own dead, and that stayed with me as well. Like, what does this mean? to be a living dead, and it's not a zombie.
Yeah, like
So,
yeah.
so yeah, so
Yeah.
that's my I guess my main inspiration. And I'm sorry, they are downers, guys. I'm so sorry.
I mean, they're not. I mean, they are. Yeah, but they're also very interesting. I can see that in Without Moonlight for sure. Very interested to see it explored in Verdant as well, in a
Yeah,
fantasy version of those ideas.
You
yeah,
did mention the Dark Crystal in the
I
video
did.
chat.
Yes, yeah, because in the Dark Crystal, what have you got? You have these creatures that were violently separated and become like imperfect beings, and one is consumed by what looks to be evil and darkness, and the other one is supposedly the light and the good one. And to me, when I watched the movie, neither seemed very good.
Hmm.
They both seemed gray, just different versions of gray, like darker gray and lighter gray, and all that. And then in the middle, you had these two creatures, these two, I don't remember what they were, like
The
fairies, like
Gelflings.
Gelflings. Yeah.
yes, and those were catalysts in bringing, like making, like healing an existence. So, and making it right again. So that that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very formative film for a lot of children who grew up with that. The
Mhm.
Skeksis were the first horrifying thing that kids
Yeah,
really were allowed to see, and they were terrified by the Skeksis.
yeah. I wasn't terrified. I was just like, I remember my first thought was the guy under this thing must be feeling really hot. That was the first thing. But as I got immersed in the story, I felt like, oh my God, this is light and darkness all mixed together, and everything is a mess, and everything, like, why does it require a sacrifice, and is this a sacrifice, and all of that. Imagine, like, in a little kid that had no idea what she was thinking about. So
Yeah.
very-
What about the look of the things in the film? Famously inspired by or created by Brian Froud, the amazing designer that created the look of fairies as we
I
know them
love
today.
I love the aesthetic of it, and I have to say that a lot of that is aesthetic you can find in the art of veiling. If I were to make it into a comic, which I will never do because I'm not that crazy. Um, but if anyone was to illustrate like the settings and the characters, and even definitely the magic from art of veiling, they feel very much like they have this very dark purpley, shadowy, tenderly sort of feel to it. So
With enormously long fingers.
well, there are especially when the girl gets into her vision, she has this very spider-like tendrils, like very long fingers that try to smother and strangle her and stuff.
Strangle. That's such a scary image from that
Yeah.
movie. Actually, when I was doing the artwork for our Key of Dreams, I was sort of
Mm,
inspired by that, to give the
Oh,
character long, spindly fingers in some
yeah,
panels.
and it works so well. I cannot wait for people to see this. I'm so proud of all of our work on
amazing.
this. This is it's going to be amazing. Yeah,
I should finish it soon.
you're almost done. I mean, almost
Yep,
done.
four more pages ago.
Yay! The final countdown.
Yes, and we're all massively inspired by that song by Europe from 1986
Yeah.
or whenever that was. Oh my god, that's the only song anyone remembers from Europe. Probably no one even remembers that was their song. But
Yeah.
I had I remember having at least one of their cassettes for the final countdown, obviously. But think I might have had another one, but I'm racking my brain to think of another song of theirs. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that should have been one of all of our inspirations. Formative. The greatest metal band ever. Who inspired Eurovision? No, I'm totally just making stuff up there.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, well, that's pretty amazing, Baines. You had one of their albums. So cool.
I want to say I had two, but I could be wrong about that. It's so long ago. And I can't back it up. Yeah, we're running out of time anyway.
Running out of time.
Topic.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to our formative inspiration cast. One big pop culture inspiration, and yeah, tell us about those in comics and comments. That
Yes.
would be really cool. We want to know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And don't be boring.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Nobody is boring on the duck. Okay, just do your thing.
Yeah.
Don't listen to him. Okay, bye bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later, sausages. Be patrons. Subscribe. Look at our videos. They're all cool.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, no.